For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want it until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings. They are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Greetings, fellow thought criminals, and thank you for joining the Insurrection. I'm Michael Lauber. This is Derrick Evans. We got a crazy stories to cover again today, and it's not even quite the end of the week yet.
Oh, man, you're not a kid now. We're almost to the end of the week, almost 1 week closer to reelecting or getting President Trump back in the White House where he belongs. As always, guys, like, share, subscribe, all those good things. If you're watching live, leave a comment. We'll do our very best to include you guys as part of the show as much as we possibly can. We got an awesome show lined up for you guys, though.
Yeah, and the drama with the pardons appears to just be getting started, unfortunately. I'm having some technical difficulties this morning. Breaking: Biden White House considers preemptive pardons for Fauci, Liz Cheney, and Adam Schiff. And I don't know, this is really despicable. The idea to do these preemptive pardons to rob the people of the justice that we want, to subvert the will of the people once again by potentially doing these broad preemptive pardons against all crimes. I mean, I don't see how this is legal or how it could be allowed to stand.
Well, out of all of those, the one I'm most upset about is the person I'm most upset about potentially getting a preemptive pardon is Fauci. If there's somebody who truly deserves to stand trial and face the consequences of their actions, it would be Anthony Fauci for what he did to the entire world, really, for that matter, but to the American people. It's unbelievable the amount of tyranny that we were under. He did it all in the name of profit. That is the most despicable out of all of them. Obviously, I expect this to happen. Mike and I were talking off air. I do think it's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen from there. No clue. But this is definitely an interesting situation. I don't know that we've ever had a president. I know that Nixon was preemptively pardoned, but that was one person, and I think everybody at least understood what the crimes were potentially going to be, even if they weren't listed. Whereas this situation, I don't know. It's like Joe Biden is just creating his own power and is really going to test, as Mike and I were talking earlier, the powers of the presidential pardon and what that could look like moving forward for our country.
Yeah, because I don't see how you don't take this to the Supreme Court and try to fight it if there are broad pardons like this. I also don't think it's going to stop here. You know, as we've seen, they don't do any half measures. So what's to prevent Biden then from doing, say, a blanket pardon for everybody that worked at the DOJ or the FBI or whoever else that we know committed crimes? Because at the end of the day, this is about protecting criminals. You know, a pardon's supposed to be in a case where maybe somebody got an unnecessarily harsh sentence, or the crimes were in some way, potentially justified, that you don't agree with the jury decision. It's something that's highly controversial, or like a lot of the ones that Trump put through. They were people that got ridiculous amounts of time for the crimes they committed. The one lady that had what was like 10 years in jail for selling marijuana. And I think it was her first real offense, first felony offense. So they're supposed to be used in cases like that, not to just shield your political operatives who clearly broke the law to torment others.
Absolutely. I want to give a quick shout out to Kelly Song and Dan Dreyer in the Rumble chat, and then J Dub and Win over here in the one of the Twitter chats. J Dub says to the gallows, and Marble in the Twitter chat as well. And Marble brings up a good point. Biden is basically saying that these people can't be charged with crimes, which is really a form of dictatorship in what he's doing here on the way out the door. I don't know I think that we need to. I don't know what's going to happen here. This is really unprecedented for a president to even, act like he's going to do this. I think he's going to do it, for the record. And so then the question becomes, to your point, Mike, do conservatives attempt to take this to the Supreme Court and say this is too broad and try to get this cleaned up? But at the same time, as I mentioned earlier to Mike, at the same time, that kind of worries me, because what if in the future the left either packs the court or gets control of the Supreme Court? And then the Supreme Court says, the Supreme Court now has the authority to override pardons. And then they go back retroactively and, I'm a January 6th political prisoner and undo the pardon that Trump's about to give myself and others. And I understand that's a little bit different. I just know that how the left operates, that they take, you give them an inch, they take a mile. And so I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know what the best action is moving forward. I do think that I don't think the Supreme Court will touch it, to be honest with you. I really don't. I mean, I could be wrong, but it's opened up a huge can of worms. And then we also have to, realize that Nixon received a preemptive blanket pardon, and that precedent, I guess, was kind of set a long time ago. And even though that was only for one person and a former president, so I don't know how this is all going to shake out.
Yeah. Well, and again, what are the alternatives? What can our side do if this is the case? Because, I mean, I say, period, you release all the files around the sham J6 committee, everything that Schiff touched, everything around Fauci, you release all the documents, declassify everything. And at the very least, they could go after all of them civilly then. Anybody that they lied about. And honestly, I think that's when we have to start using lawfare ourselves, is just put them up against so many cases. If you have every J6 defendant then suing Liz Cheney for damages that she caused by lying, and now we have the evidence once it's declassified, same with Schiff. Fauci then could be prosecuted or have gone after civilly, and maybe get with some of these AGs and let it known to Biden, like, hey, if you move forward with these other preemptive pardons for Fauci and Cheney and Pencil Neck, that we've got these state AGs now that are going to go after Hunter for these charges. So it's up to you. Do you want to see your son fighting through all these cases, or do you want to go protect these your political allies here, these liars, these stooges that went and did your will, lied to the public and everything else? If you issue those pardons, guess what? We're going after Hunter at the state level. Then you don't have any way to stop that. I mean, if they're going to fight dirty, we got to do the same.
Absolutely. Well, and Andy Girl over here in the Rumble chat brings up a good point too. Says it's also admitting that they did commit crimes, and it is. That's exactly what he's basically saying here. The fact that he's even considering, publicly to preemptively pardon them lets you know that they did commit crimes at the end of the day on this. So there needs to be some major consequences for this. I like your point on this in terms of how to combat this. Is once they have received a pardon, they can no longer exercise their Fifth Amendment privileges, because it's impossible for them to self-incriminate themselves. Now, the question is, do our Republicans actually have the guts and the backbone to go after them and bring them in and actually question them and investigate them hard and in public? And if they catch them lying under oath, that is after the pardon, they've perjured themselves, they can be charged then, and they should be. And if nothing else, they could come in, and if they did tell the truth, you'd get to the bottom of just how deep this actually runs, with the COVID stuff and the cover up of January 6th, the stolen election, all that stuff. Find out how deep that is, and there's going to be people in that web who deserve to be charged as well, who did not receive the pardon, who should be charged. And then, as you pointed out, it opens them up for civil lawsuits as well. So there's a lot of things that we can do to still fight back on this. As somebody who went through lawfare myself, in some ways it might be worse than prison, especially for these people who, have self-enriched themselves. Their families are extremely wealthy now off the backs of American citizens, to go after them and strip them of that in civil lawsuits based on the crimes that they committed against the American people. That would be a pretty good justice as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I really do think we got to at least try to take this to the Supreme Court if they go forward with it, because again, the intention of the pardon wasn't to be a blanket immunity from crimes that were committed. It was supposed to be for something specific. So maybe they can go after it and say, a pardon has to name what crimes you're being pardoned for or given immunity for. That it can't just be a blanket to cover 10 or 11 years, I guess, for Hunter Biden. Well, I guess 10 technically, but or if they do the same for any of these others. But yeah, I agree. Dragging them in front of Congress, making them testify, they won't be able to not answer questions. If they lie or misconstrue the truth in any way, we ought to charge them with perjury, throw them in jail for as long as we possibly can, and continue to go after them civilly and not back down. Like, I'm talking years of lawfare against them. Make their life so miserable that they just give up. Because that's really the only alternative, is if they're going to try to circumvent justice by pardoning these political hacks that lied to the American people, and their actions caused real damage. There's plenty of people that are in jail for January 6th, essentially because of how they've run everything out of D.C. and having these corrupt courts and corrupt people there in this corrupt sham J6 hearing, not to mention all the lying that Schiff did that was election interference and everything else. So there have to be real consequences, and even if we have to pursue some of those at the state level, like the election interference, we could get 26 states to civilly go after Schiff for election interference, and now he's fighting 26 lawsuits. That's going to cost him millions and millions and millions of dollars, tie him up in court forever, and crush his very soul if he has one. Yeah,
well, I mean, Dan Jerry brings up a good point over here. Says, what's next? Are they going to legalize crime? And then I'll get to that in a second. And then Pissed Off Vet in the Rumble chat, I love your name, says you can't pardon treason. And that is very true. And I do think that a lot of these things that have been committed are and could fall under treason, especially when you get into these people who are aiding and abetting the invasion of our country from foreign invaders. That is literally treason. That would be the definition of that. And then in terms of legalizing crime, I mean, the Democrats have been on the public record of basically wanting to legalize crime, and that's basically what Joe Biden is doing here when they do that. And you brought up a good point off the air, Mike, before we started the show, is, what if we find out that, and I wouldn't be surprised by this, and that's why I think it's a good point, what if we found out that Hunter Biden was involved in some way or another with the Epstein trafficking of children, or trafficking children in general? I mean, we saw some of the things on the laptop. I mean, you would not be completely shocked if he was found to have been involved in sex trafficking in some way. And he's just going to be let off scot-free for that because of a blanket pardon that didn't. I think that he should at the very least have to go through and list all the charges that they are being, or even if it's preemptively, all the potential charges that they would be pardoned from moving forward. Not just anything you've ever done is wiped clean and you can't be charged. At the very least, they should have to, even if they list every single charge that exists, that would make me feel a little bit better that they would have to go through and list all these charges. I think that is the way that they should have to do this at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, the way it's being done is just a giant slap in the face to the American people. One of many slaps in the face Biden's issued going out the door, because we're going to talk about a few other ones here coming up today. Let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and jump to our next story here. Yesterday, we kind of covered this because it was just breaking as we jumped on air. Assassination, largest health insurance CEO murdered in cold blood. Here's the shocking CCTV footage. I'm not going to play the video or anything like that. I'm sure you guys have already seen it, but I don't know. There's a lot circulating. Like, why was this guy targeted? Was this, an individual? Was this a professional? And there's a lot of commentary going around about the shooter, and some of this is a little off base. So I don't think so. One of the things that we keep seeing is that he was a professional, but as you're saying, Derek, the guy got shot in the leg first. Correct? Got shot in the calf, and then went down, and then was shot at close range. We know that he had messages carved into the shell casings. It was denied, defend, and depose. And then the other thing that we're seeing is, that the gun jammed. I'm not so sure it did, and I don't think it was the subsonic ammunition either, because 9mm subsonics will cycle a suppressed pistol with, as long as there's a booster in the suppressor, or as long as there's a booster in the suppressor, or if it's light enough. There are a few out there that will cycle without a booster. But I think the guy either had a homemade suppressor on the gun, something that did not have a booster, didn't have a Nielsen device or piston or something else to allow it to cycle, or I almost wonder, was the way the guy charges the gun when he racks the slide, when it supposedly jams. I kind of wonder if this guy didn't have a hush puppy or some other kind of modified pistol. So the gun cycling, if you have a good suppressor, that's going to be like the loudest part of it. The gas escaping is going to be reduced enough that it's subsonic, and it's not quiet, but it doesn't sound like a gunshot. Whereas a hush puppy locks the action, so all the gas has to go out through the barrel and through the suppressor, so there's less noise. So I think this guy either had like a hush puppy, or he had a suppressor, possibly a homemade one, that did not have a booster or Nielsen device to make sure the weapon cycled.
Yeah, well, I'll give a quick shout out to Sammy in the Twitter chat here, and Steven as well. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and hanging out with us. So the words on there that were deny, defend, oppose, those are from a book that was written around 2010, somewhere in that range, about how insurance companies refuse to pay claims. And so there's some theories around that as well. I mean, that is a very distinct choice of words, and that is literally the title of a book of on there. So you have to think that's connected in some way with that. So at first I thought the guy was just shot in the back, and then I watched a video of a guy who was breaking it down, and really he's been on Joe Rogan recently. I can't think of his name right now, but anyways, and he pointed out that the guy was shot in the leg, and I went back and looked, and the guy is shot in the left leg, like the hamstring or the calf area or whatever, the first shot. And so off air, me and Mike were talking about this, leading into the show, just kind of hashing out a little bit. And I said, there's no way he's a professional if he missed that close. I mean, anybody who's ever shot a gun before, probably if you've never shot a gun before, could probably hit center mass within 10 yards that close. But then I started thinking about it, and I was like, I mean, the guy was pretty comfortable in terms of, didn't panic, with everything, with fixing the gun, reloading it and everything. And so I almost wonder if he shot him in the leg on purpose so he could walk up to him and say something to him before he finished him off. I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud with all this. This is all just new information to us as well, and we're just thinking out loud. So who knows what really is going on there? In terms of professional, I don't know that a very high level professional would leave messages on the casings. I don't know if they'd leave casings at all, let alone messages on there. You got to think a high level professional would be thinking about DNA, fingerprints, all these other things. Like, everybody knows, I mean, I watch enough crime TV to know that the more evidence you leave at the scene, the more likely you are to be caught. And so I would think that a very, very high level hitman person would probably not do that. And I'm not saying the guy's not a professional or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there's a difference in somebody who's an upset person who has military training, who would be a professional with a gun, in my opinion, and do that, and a difference in a high-level professional hitman who gets paid millions of dollars to take out these kinds of things. I think there's a difference between those two things of professionals, and I think that a lot of people who I see debating about whether the guy was a professional or not, I think that they're having a debate about without knowing. I think they're talking past each other and not talking about the same level of professionalism.
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of things that happen with this that kind of lead me to think this guy is not a professional, that I guess they tracked him down to a coffee shop he was at beforehand. And they are going through the garbage to try to get DNA evidence from a cup that he drank from there. I guess he did not run off on an e-bike like they said he did originally. And again, there's going to be a lot of haze with all this stuff coming out originally. But there is one other little piece I want to bring up that, private individuals are not allowed to own suppressors in New York. It's one of just a few states that have laws against prohibiting ownership of NFA items, suppressors, machine guns, short-barreled rifles or shotguns, or something's classified as any other weapon and destructive devices. I think California is another one, but there's only a handful of states. Like normally you have to jump through a bunch of hoops to buy something like that, but if you can own a gun, you can own a silencer, you can own a machine gun. You just have to you just have to go through all the steps legally, which is a giant pain in the butt. But there's a number of things. You brought up another interesting point that did he shoot this guy in the leg first so he could go up and say something to him before he went and finished him off? And to me, like, that kind of makes the most sense, that this would be somebody that was in some way connected. Maybe they denied a claim for him, something like that. Maybe it cost a relative their life. Other people have brought up that I guess there was some kind of recent glitch on their system where 90% of claims were getting submitted, were getting denied, or getting they're coming back, they're getting disputed, I guess would be the right way to put it. So is this guy somebody like that just wanted vengeance? Is this guy just some kind of wacko that targeted this guy? Or is this guy even just some insane leftist that thinks that, all healthcare companies are evil and just exploiting the citizens and blah, blah, blah? And we don't really know yet, but hopefully we do find out more information, because this isn't the type of thing we typically see here in the U.S. We don't usually see assassins performing hits. Usually that happens, in Mexico. So, who knows? Maybe that's connected too.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. That's where we're at right now as a country, not just as a country, but New York City. I mean, regardless of what the truth is behind this, that we do know in terms of the facts that a CEO walks out of a hotel in the middle of New York City, and we're not talking to like 3 a.m. I mean, I know it was early, but I mean, it's not like 3 a.m. or he's outside of a bar or something and got in a bar fight and something happened. I mean, the guy walks out and he just walks up to him on the street and just pulls the trigger, man, with no care in the world. I mean, that is where we're at as a country right now. That's pretty wild. And look, I get that the insurance system is completely broken. People were getting screwed over all the time on that. And so of course there's there's gonna be a long list of people if it's in that category of people who have been done wrong by the insurance. I mean, good luck, because there's going to be a lot of people to comb through on that, probably more than they could ever do. But it's amazing to me that they were able to track down grandmas who were standing on the wrong blade of grass at the Capitol on January 6th and follow them everywhere they went on these cameras. And then they lost this guy on the cameras. Like, they can't continue tracing it back. I mean, there's cameras everywhere in New York City. They couldn't go to the next camera and find this guy and keep working back until, I don't know. To me, it's like they said they fled and that was as far as they got. And it's like, well, where's the next set of cameras? Like, you're telling me you guys can't find this guy? I don't know. It's just, to me, that's a little weird. And then to your point about being once again, there's a difference in being a military professional who's upset and you're still professional with a gun who took the shot, and a difference in a professional hitman or somebody who a professional hit job. Because those, I know we've talked about it, we see it in movies, like that stuff does exist. And that person under that scenario who's a professional hitman would not have been at a Starbucks or whatever it was, leaving DNA there, being seen, all that stuff beforehand. Like, none of that would have happened. So I think we can rule out that being a professional hitman, but I do think he was a professional person who's well trained at the very least with a gun. That's just my opinion. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I think that's very likely that it's somebody that does well practiced, maybe knew what they were doing. And, I don't know that it is going to take some time to track down where this guy went through video cameras, but I have heard too, they track him to a vehicle where they can't see the driver or the license plate. Like, he knew where the cameras were. And then at some point after that, he drives to another area and they lose him. Maybe there was another vehicle change or whatever, but we'll give them a little time on that. I imagine they're going through thousands of hours of video right now. It's only been a little over 24 hours since this happened. So they may need a little more time to track things down. I mean, the last thing on this, and we got to go on a quick quick break, is, the other thing that I really thought was sad about this whole thing is just the reaction over on Blue Sky, where all the leftists fled to. If you guys don't know, Blue Sky is basically Twitter for pedophiles. It's where the left went after the election. But they couldn't be more thrilled about this. They think this is great and they want to see more of it. You have even Taylor Lorenz, this, the cry bully out there suggesting other healthcare CEOs to go terminate, that this would be like some part of a new revolution or something. But guys, we got to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, then we're going to be right back with even more.
Hey folks, it's your buddy John Rich here and co-founder of Old Glory Bank. Let me ask you a question. Why would you trust your banking with people that hate you? Well, you shouldn't. We're building a freedom economy, and now we have a pro-America bank. It's called Old Glory Bank. Check it out at oldglorybank.com and open yourself an account today.
Old Glory Bank is a full-service, FDIC-insured online bank with business and consumer banking and customers in all 50 states. It takes just 8 minutes to open an account at oldglorybank.com.
I couldn't give anything a higher endorsement.
I would be remiss had I not include Cardio Miracle on my very short list of secrets.
It's the real deal. It's a real product. It's not another supplement.
I'm operating about 6 to 8 hours, and I've noticed that being on this Cardio Miracle has made a huge difference.
Since I started taking Cardio Miracle, about 8 months into it, the benefits have been fantastic.
If I get hungry, then I just have a Cardio Miracle.
Not only is it safe, but it's necessary to take Cardio Miracle to stay well.
This let me sleep. It's feeling like more energy, more get up and go. And it's all because of what this company does.
For me as a doctor, Cardio Miracle is a staple.
Cardio Miracle to me is hope in a glass.
To try Cardio Miracle for yourself and get a special fan discount, go to the host page right now and click the link for Cardio Miracle.
You're muted, Mike.
That's what I get for sneezing during the break. The best way to support our program and all the programs on Patriot TV is by supporting our sponsors. You can go to patriot.tv, and I've been using Cardio Miracle now for about a week, and I can definitely vouch for increased energy. Usually, I work late at night and I'm up relatively early in the morning. I've been taking this Cardio Miracle supplement now, usually a little before we go on air. And then now I don't need an early afternoon coffee or another one. Once 4 o'clock runs around, I've got energy to get throughout the day. I'm actually pretty impressed with it. So give it a shot. Go to patriot.tv. You can select our program, then go down to the sponsors. That way we'll get some credit for directing there. But give it a shot, especially if you're one of these people like I was, drinking 6 to 8 cups of espresso, or 6 to 8 shots of espresso a day. I'm sure that wasn't good for me. I've been able to cut out 4 or 5 of those now. I still need my double in the morning, but after that, this definitely helps me keep going through the rest of the day.
Would not be happy with all those shots that you're taking there. Just so you know, it would be disappointed in you. I want to give a quick.
He's not the only doctor that's not happy with that. My doctors would tell me I'm overdoing it for years.
Before we get to our next story, I just want to give a quick shout out to Jeff Larson in the Twitter chat. Jeff, was talking about how he doesn't think it's a MO of a professional, either more of an activist or or a vendetta of some sort. And then we'll give a quick shout out to Jimmy Jack Joe and Thaddeus over here as well. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, there was another big story we mentioned yesterday, but we hadn't gotten to the fireworks yet by 11 a.m. ACLU trans attorney admits before the Supreme Court there's no evidence child sex changes help prevent suicide. This is a huge, huge admission, because this is what they've used to bludgeon a lot of parents. Elon Musk, this is what he brought up when transitioning his son, that he wasn't given good information, and they said that his son was going to kill himself or commit harm some other way if he wasn't given cross-sex hormones and eventually given the chop. And this is a huge, huge flaw in their logic, and they had to admit it before the Supreme Court.
Yeah, well, and pull that back up really quick if you don't mind. I just want to the guy on the right hand side over here, the younger person, that is a trans person as well, for the record, and was on CNN. And this person, I don't think we have the clip because we weren't really expecting, but this person claimed that someone as young as 2 years old was able to make the determination to change their biological sex. This person is advocating for 2-year-olds to be transitioned because maybe, look, I've got 4 kids. I got 2 girls that are older, and then I got 2 boys that are younger. And it's nothing for my 2 or 3-year-old boy to go grab a Barbie doll with their sister because they want to play with their sister. It doesn't mean that they want to be a girl. They're 2 years old. And this person is saying that they should be able to be transitioned. I think Don Jr. said it best, and I agree. Anybody who thinks that a 2-year-old should be castrated, they themselves should be castrated. And I would agree with that 100%.
Well, I mean, this is one of those things that's self-evident. I love some of these fake memes that go around with like, don't prevent your 6-year-old from driving drunk. It's their choice. They know what's best for them. Where it's just, it puts it to the point of pure idiocy, but this all should be pure idiocy. There's no way a 6-year-old, they don't know it. They don't understand anything that's going on like this. They know what a man is. They know what a woman is. They don't have any real internalization of sex or gender or anything like that. That's a lie. And the idea that now suddenly there's this explosive growth in the number of people that are transgender or broken in some other way, that the fact that it's just exploded over the last few years, instead of it being a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the total population that has gender dysphoria, now since it's being encouraged or even forced on children, I think a lot of the time that it's a mother that's a mental case pushing this on them, or a teacher, or whoever else. The reality is different than what they're trying to portray. They want us all to pretend somehow this is normal, but it isn't, and we all know it.
Absolutely. Well, over here, Ron says in the Twitter chat says, sad, our med system's corrupted with trans misinformation. I agree. And then Jeff Larson says, absolutely despicable what they were arguing for, which I agree with that as well. And J-Dub says they're psychotic, and they are. And once again, some 2-year-olds are not even talking yet. I mean, are not potty trained yet. And here they are arguing and saying that a 2-year-old who can't even use the bathroom by themselves is able to be transitioned from one sex to another. All of this is child abuse. These people should be criminally charged, and I believe that the parents should be charged as well for promoting this, allowing this to happen. Your job as a parent is to protect your children and for them to go do this. But back to the thing about him admitting to the Supreme Court that there is no evidence. They always want to bring up the suicide rate. That's all they always want to bring up. But there is no evidence amongst those who have been accepted by their peers as the gender that they're claiming to be. Their suicide rate has not went down. So that is proof that what we already knew, but that is proof that there's an underlying mental health issue here that is not being treated. That's the sad part about this. I'm very upset with the medical community who's profiting off of this. I'm upset with the left-wing people who are pushing this, these corrupt judges who are stripping parents' rights away to push this, the parents who are pushing. I'm frustrated with all that. But from a human place of compassion, it's sad that these people who are going through this, especially children, are at a place where they have a true mental health issue and they are needing mental health help and they are not receiving it. They are being sexually mutilated and not getting the mental health treatment that they deserve. Honestly, if you think about it from that standpoint, it is absolutely heartbreaking to think that there are children out there right now who they need some mental help and they are being told to cut off body parts and sexually mutilate themselves and puberty blockers and everything else. And it's obviously not helping anything. And they're still in a position of needing the mental help, but now they've been sexually mutilated. It is absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, exactly. They end up with lifelong problems. Even if they change their mind later, they come to their senses. They're now disfigured, destroyed, unable to have children, and they have a lifetime to go through. A lot of them are still stuck with permanent wound care, with having to take other drugs just to stay alive because of bad choices their parents allowed them to make or made for them when they were younger. But yeah, let's go ahead. This wasn't the only insanity to come out of this trial yesterday. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who doesn't know what a woman is, compares sex changes for children to interracial marriage. Activist ACLU attorney agrees. Yeah, there was also another comparison that this is no different than giving kids aspirin in schools if they have a headache. So these people on the left have just lost the plot. And I don't know why they've grafted onto this issue and it's become something that's so central to them. But they've clearly lost their minds, and most of the country knows it. I mean, I think this is a big part of what destroyed the Democrats in this last election, is embracing this trans issue when the average person knows this is just pure insanity.
Yeah, I mean, to try to compare this to two consenting adults wanting to get married, falling in love and wanting to get married, that is just, honestly, that's next level craziness on her part. But once again, she's somebody who could not define what a woman was and claims she's not a biologist. And so she's not a biologist. Why is she trying to talk about this now, all of a sudden, that she's on the Supreme Court? But, look, I've had this position for quite a while now. If you're over the age of 21, you're an adult, and you want to pay out of your own pocket and have a sex change, I support your freedom to do that. I don't think it's the government's position to try to tell you that you can. I'm not going to waste my time and my energy and my effort. I got way more important things to do with my life than to tell you that you can't do something that stupid. I'm going to tell you that you're stupid if you ask me, but I'm not. I got bigger fish to fry than to try to prevent that. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want my tax dollars paying for it. I don't want Medicare, Medicaid, any of those things paying for these elective surgeries, because that's exactly what they are. They're elective surgeries. And so I don't want to be paying for it. But now, when it comes to children, I think that we, as not just as a society, but men in particular, I think that we have a duty to stand up and speak out and voice our concerns and do everything we can to protect our families, our children, and everything else. And then the bigger issue with that is even on the as an adult who's wanting to dress and play dress up as a man dressed up as a woman. I don't care if you want to pretend that, but I draw the line when you try to force my family and I to pretend. And when you try to say that you can go in the bathroom with my wife or my little girls, now you're forcing my family to pretend that you're a woman. And we're not going to play those reindeer games in my house. If you want to pretend that you're a man and you want to pretend that you're a woman and you want to go in the bathroom with my wife or my daughters, I'm gonna pretend that I'm the tooth fairy and I'm going to knock your teeth out. And I don't really care what happens from there. I mean, I went to prison over a stolen election. I trust me, I would go to prison over my children if I had to. I promise you that, and I'd do it with a smile on my face. But that's the issue that we're in right now. We've got to protect these children, and them doing it to children. We do have even as a government, we have a role to step in and protect children with laws and everything else to prevent these things from happening. They're being preyed upon by the medical community right now. We know that every single child that transitions is roughly $4.5 million worth of medicinal value to these big pharma companies. That is why they're pushing this. That is why they're indoctrinating people to do this. This is why it's a huge, big money operation, and they're out here targeting our children. And all of this is happening because we have a society full of weak men as a whole.
Yep.
We have a society full of weak men, because I promise you right now, you go back in time to when my grandparents were our age, this would not be standing, and it wouldn't be a handful of people who's fighting back against it. Every single man and woman out there would be fighting against this right now. They would beat the tar out of somebody for trying to do this junk and wouldn't care of the consequences. We have a society full of weak men that are allowing them to target our wives, our mothers, our aunts, our sisters, our children, and it's despicable. And it's time for the men to step up and start protecting our communities.
Yeah, and again, maybe we should take a lesson from the left and incorporate lawfare. Start suing these hospital chains, doctors, and everyone else. Drag them through court. When it starts affecting their bottom line and becomes unpopular, there, go after insurance companies that are paying for it. Whatever you can, because even just making them fight all these cases is going to be enough that they're going to reconsider some of what they're doing. And since we have so many elected officials in places like California that want to protect this rather than solve the problem, I guess it's up to us to do something to make a difference on our own. Now, hopefully the Supreme Court case gives us grounds then to eliminate this in other states. We can point to that ruling and then prevent other schools from transitioning children, especially grade schools. Like you said, I mean, I really think, your brain's not fully developed till you're 25. And that should be the line for where people are allowed to mutilate themselves. I suppose, 18 or 21 when you're legally an adult is where it's going to be now. But, this whole situation is bad, and it's the worst for the people that go through it. I think we need a palate cleanser. We need some good news. So here we go. More Americans want J6ers pardoned, as 68% of Dems support case-by-case review if pardons go forward. I mean, this is huge. This is a big development. Now you have 68% of even Democrats, and I get that in the survey they want case-by-case review, but they're warming to the idea. They're starting to understand that these J6 defendants are not the terrorist insurrectionists the media has portrayed them as for the last 4 years. They're starting to see that this is political persecution, not prosecution, and they want reviews and pardons. So it's going to be real hard for the media to keep up the narrative that they've had going for the last 4 years, considering even the base voters are changing, and at a rate of almost 70%.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot to unpack with that. I mean, first of all, the fact that 68% of Democrats, not 68% of people across the country, we're talking 68% of Democrats want or would accept it on a case-by-case basis. That is a huge movement. Obviously, I think most of us support, everybody being pardoned who is actually there for the right reasons, not talking about the Fed provocateurs or anything like that. But the fact that 68% of Democrats are okay with it on a case-by-case basis is huge. I think that part of that is because as more truth has come out about the stolen election, and I think this last election helps prove the election was stolen with all the missing votes that are all of a sudden, not there, number one. But I think also as more and more evidence has come out sharing the truth about January 6th itself, the events that day, people like myself and so many others who've already went through our prison time and were able to speak out and have been speaking out and sharing the truth. I think because the media wasn't sharing our side of the truth for the first 18 months or so, it was all insurrection, domestic terrorists. None of us could speak out because we were going through the legal battles. None of us could speak out about it. It was all one-sided. And then I think the other part of that is, and I'm talking about specifically on the Democrats, by the way, on this, why you're seeing that rise. I think the other part of that is when you're seeing, after they spent this whole time saying that Hunter Biden was not going to be pardoned, and that nobody was above the law, all of this, and now Joe Biden has come out and done that and pardoning his son. I think that a lot of the people originally were against it because they really were buying into the narrative of the left that they were not going to use the pardons in this way, and it should only be for a very special set of circumstances, sort of thing. And now that they've had their eyes open and realized, that was just a campaign speech, they were just doing that to try to win votes during an election, and now they see the truth about it. I think that now they're more accepting of pardons moving forward for the January 6th political prisoners.
Agreed. Yeah, what I really want to see here is once Kash Patel declassifies everything around the FBI's involvement in January 6th, I want to find out what federal operatives were there, drag them all before Congress, and then we can find out what their mission directives were. Why were they there on January 6th? What did they do? Were they responsible for breaking any windows, kicking in any doors, anything like that? And then charge them with the crimes they committed, drag them right after testifying before Congress. Guys, we got to take another quick break, and we're going to be right back with even more.
Hey, Patriot TV fans, feel like there's nothing on the radio for like-minded, intelligent people like yourself? Well, great news. Now you can stream Patriot TV on TuneIn during your drive to or from work. Whether you're stuck in traffic or cruising down the highway, you can catch every conversation from your favorite show hosts right in your car. No more mindless jibber-jabber. Tune in 24/7 on the road, at the gym, or wherever you are. Download the free TuneIn app now on Apple, Android, or your computer and never miss a beat. Patriot TV, now on TuneIn.
My name is General Mike Flynn, and I want everyone to know that I stand fully behind Beverly Hills Precious Metals and its owner, Andrew Sorcini. We are facing one of the greatest periods of financial uncertainty in both American and world history, and so now is the time to organize your finances. With the advent of the BRICS pay system, we need to now seriously consider how we can take better care of ourselves and our families and start some serious decision making when it comes to our wealth. You can also ask about their newest 2-ounce coin of yours truly. It's an absolutely great gift, and I am deeply honored to be part of history, as well as helping people protect their finances, their wealth, and their investments. So visit gold.generalflynn.com. Tell them the General sent you. Thank you so very much. God bless you, and God bless America.
Guys, thank you for staying with us. And again, the best way to support our program and all the programs here on Patriot TV is by supporting our sponsors. So please go to gold.generalflynn.com. It's a great way to protect your assets, to invest for your future, and to support patriots that are trying to bring you the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. Well, we've got more sabotage from the Biden regime. Who would have thought? Biden blocks new coal mining leases where 40% of the nation's coal is produced. So this is over in Wyoming, right?
Yes.
And yeah, and you know he's Obama already devastated the coal industry. It's cost hundreds of thousands of people high-paying jobs. He's done the same with oil and other energy production. The left's war on energy and energy independence. It costs all of us in the long run. It costs us more in transportation, more in the cost of producing goods and services, more in the cost of generating electricity. It's everything across the board. It's a war on your wallets, the American people. And, there's another example of that, of him trying to throw a monkey wrench into things as he's getting ushered out the door after his policies were rejected by the American people.
Well, luckily, as you pointed out, this is an executive order, so it can be undone. At least to my knowledge, that's what it works as. But this was, look, the war on coal has been absolutely devastating. I live in West Virginia, right on the Kentucky border. This is coal country here, and all the thermal coal has been shut down. So there's two different types of coal. There's thermal, and then there's metallurgical met. Thermal is used for producing electricity. They burn that to make electricity, coal-fired power plants. And then the met burns at a higher temperature, and that is used to make steel for the steel industry and everything else. So under the Obama administration that came in, they basically decimated the thermal coal industry by shutting down the coal-fired power plants. And I know a lot of people were like, well, just open them back up. Well, what people don't realize is they actually completely demolished so many of these plants. I mean, came in and blew them up. Like they no longer exist. And so in order to get back to that, they would actually have to rebuild coal-fired power plants from the ground up because they no longer exist. And so what has happened is the states that, so in West Virginia and Eastern Kentucky, a lot of our met coal mines are still open right now, but we had a lot of thermal coal here as well, and that was probably the biggest portion of it. And it's lower quality coal, so it's more in abundance, and so that just decimated the coal industry. Same thing out in Wyoming. And so as their two largest producers out there, I don't remember the names of the companies, but the two largest coal producers in Wyoming have really been shifting towards the met coal as well because of the decline of the thermal coal. And now Biden comes in and denies their lease for the met coal as well. It's just an attack on this. It's just falling in line and bowing and worshiping at the altar of climate change. That's what the left does. That's who they are. And that's what this is all coming down to. And it's all a hoax. To be honest with you, in some ways, we should all be jealous of Al Gore, because if I'm jealous that we didn't think of it first. He has done nothing but absolutely profit to an extreme amount off the biggest scam and the biggest lie in the history. We think Zelensky is the biggest grifter in history. No. Al Gore is the largest and biggest grifter of all time. Zelensky is pales in comparison to all the grifting on the lies that Al Gore has done since early 2000 at this point.
Oh yeah. Well, it's time to just shut down this whole hoax and whole lie. I'm not sure what they can declassify that would help along those lines, but we can do is shut down the EPA or most of it. There's really no reason for a federal EPA, considering states have their own. They can handle their own environmental problems. This is just a way for the leftists, globalists, to reward their friends and allies, to dump money into companies like Solyndra that are producing a product that's never going to go anywhere, that won't work, because again, it's all been tried before, and to just funnel money to the universities and big tech. So shutting down that ability, and there's something else O'Keefe just uncovered. We're probably not going to get to the story today. Maybe we'll hold this over for tomorrow. But yeah, he just caught him there. They're trying to push as much money out the door before January 20th as they can, approve as many grants and loan proposals, and gift out as much money as they can to the tune of billions and billions of dollars. They're just raiding your pocketbook, taking more money, saddling your children with debt to support an agenda that's harmful to all of us. So yeah, I know energy is going to be a high priority for the Trump administration. So hopefully we can bring back coal, rebuild some coal-fired power plants, get our oil and natural gas industries thriving again, become energy independent. It will reduce the cost for all of us, and it will also reduce energy costs for other people around the world. Once we're able to provide our own and sell in the open market, we'll be able to help alleviate the lack of supply and offset any cuts that Saudi Arabia or whoever else makes next time. Or, next time somebody wants to blow up their own pipeline, we'll be able to sell them natural gas instead.
Yeah. Well, Thaddeus, brings up a good point in the Twitter chat. Thaddeus says bringing down the cost of energy is key to bringing down the cost of literally everything, and that's exactly right.
Bingo.
That is how we get back to manufacturing here in the United States again as well. And we're want to get into these trade wars, which I support President Trump on these. But part of that is being able to produce and make things cost effectively here in the United States of America. And that comes back to using American energy, and the cheapest form of energy which is coal. One of them anyways is coal. And it is actually can be relatively clean in the grand scheme of things. But here's the frustrating part is we all share the same air, the same atmosphere, all of this. And you got these left-wing people out here pushing to shut down American energy here in the United States of America for quote unquote climate. And for every time we shut down a coal-fired power plant here in America, China is building 3 in the same week there. And that is why it is one of the many reasons it is so cheap to build things in China is they are burning and manufacturing and using coal to produce their stuff. So the cost of energy, the cost of production is so much cheaper because of that. And it's reliable and everything else. So I agree. That's one of the ways we can get this economy rolling again is to get back to producing American energy and working towards not only energy independent, which we were under President Trump, but energy dominant, which we are on our way to doing so under President Trump. And on the same note, we need to, and I fully expect Trump to do this, fill up our supplies of petroleum that Joe Biden basically drained. The reserves were filled up at the as high as they could go under President Trump, and Joe Biden has drained all of those as well, the strategic reserves of oil. And so we got to get back to that as well.
Yeah, and something else kind of related is as it's becoming common knowledge now that wind power isn't all that it was hyped up to be, that it doesn't work, it's not cost effective, not even energy effective, and then they leave huge amounts of waste when they inevitably fail. I've seen a lot of leftists asking, like, well, why don't we have more hydroelectric power? Well, again, you can thank your buddies at the EPA for this. They've blocked a lot of dam projects and similar projects that would have allowed for more hydroelectric power, even small-scale generators, which is idiotic regulations that they're just making up, pulling out of their butts. And that's, again, why this power needs to be reined back in. We shouldn't be allowing these, there should be no independent regulatory agencies. If they want a new law or new rule, it needs to go through Congress. Right now, these agencies are out of control and preventing things like that, because I do think like hydroelectric power is another great alternative. It's something that's there that we can harness. You can power whole cities with it, and it doesn't, it doesn't pollute at all. It's just water going over the spillway, same as it always was. We're just putting a concrete dam in the way, controlling the flow, and generating power off of it. I think that's a great alternative. It's something that Canada has done a lot of in prior years. Now the same problem. The environmental crazies are preventing it. But this is why these agencies need to get gutted, put back under normal control, power delegated back out to the states, so we don't have bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. preventing you from living your life or from having cheap energy that's ready and available, whether that's through coal, through hydroelectric, through expanding nuclear power, and other things. We should be dropping the price of energy across the board because, like you said, it affects everything. Transportation, production of goods, heating your home, everything across the board is dependent on energy in our modern world.
Absolutely. Quick shout out to Pita Chips and Rick Ivy in the Twitter chats. Appreciate you guys. But look, here's the thing. So I tell people all the time, I'm not anti, quote unquote green energy. I'm using those air quotes because there's nothing green about it, but I'm not anti that energy. I am anti taxing our natural resources into the ground and then using that money to prop up these quote unquote green energy companies and this scam. Like if they can compete in the open free market and it's just more cost effective and it's more reliable and it's better and they improve the technology and solar panels wins out over coal and oil, then so be it. But right now that's not the case. They're not even close to being able to compete. And here we are taxing these companies and these industries into the ground at the expense of American people who are losing good jobs to turn around and prop up these other places. And that's not the way it's supposed to work. And under a free market, and if they ever do create the technology where it's actually better, there would be a slow, gradual transition over that. What happened is they just came in one day and pulled the rug out from underneath of the coal, oil, natural gas industries and propped them up over here underneath the green energy scams. And that is the biggest issue I think that a lot of us have with that is just let the free market run its course. If it's better, then it's better, and if it's not, which it's not right now, then leave us alone and let us continue doing things the way that we have been and protecting ourselves. And look, at the end of the day, American energy independence is a matter of national security in this country, and it's not being treated as such, and it needs to be.
Yep. Now, let's not forget, all green energy is energy dependent on weather, which you don't always get the conditions that you want to supply the amount of power that you want. Obviously, solar panels don't work at night. Windmills only work when there's wind, whereas nuclear, coal-fired power plants, natural gas, whatever, that's energy on demand that can actually meet the people's needs. And until green energy comes up with something similar, it's just not viable in mass. We can't build massive battery banks and double solar usage or anything else. It's not economically viable. Not to mention it won't meet our needs. I got two other headlines I want to get to here real quick before we wrap up. Trump win spurs cartels to command bigger fees to smuggle migrants across U.S. border. And I want to go back to my country. Migrants anxious, demoralized by Trump victory, and they're beginning to self-deport. Well, we called this a while back, but yeah, now you're seeing it. I'm a little surprised the cartel is upping their fees, but I guess, there's still a demand for them, and they're just maximizing their market, what they can make before the doors get slammed behind them. But yeah, I mean, I think this is good news, and it's showing that Trump policies, they know what's coming, and he's not even in office yet, and we're already starting to improve the problem on the ground here in America.
Yeah, well, obviously the price went up because of, it's going to be harder to do that moving forward. So obviously it drives more of a cost there. But look, these people are wanting to go back. I think that's good news. And I think that we as America should go out of our way to help them go back if they want to. It'd be much cheaper to just put these people on a cheap flight and send them back to their country than it is to go round them up and deport them. And I think we should incentivize that a little bit in terms of, we're spending almost $151 billion a year on these illegals. So, a $200 flight back to $300, whatever it is, flight back to wherever they're going, even if it's $1,000, it's worth it to get them out of our country. And I think we should incentivize that and tell them, hey, if you deport on your own, like you come over to us, we'll send you back to your country. Then you're allowed to get back in line and try to come in the legal way, at some point in the future. If we are forced to come and round you up and drag you out of here, like you're never allowed to come back, you or your children, nobody in your family is allowed to come back to this country the legal, proper way. You guys are blacklisted and blackballed moving forward. And maybe that would give them some incentive to get out of here the right way. Because I do think that there's at least a small portion of these people who did come here for hoping to achieve the American dream. I disagree with what they've done and all that. And I think a large portion of them are just thugs and rapists and murderers and all these things who's been released from these prisons 100%. But I do think that at least a small portion who are not in that category, we should give them a reason to go back home to their home country without, any sort of consequences or anything. Just get them out of here and move forward with our country.
Exactly. I think a grace period, at least initially, and allow self-deportation. I think that's a good idea. Have a period of, 30 to 90 days, something like that at the beginning of Trump's term, where we're already targeting the criminal aliens that are here. But if you're somebody that the only law you broke was crossing the border illegally and, you just wanted a better life for your family, that's understandable. Get yourself back across the border, or like you said, we'll fund your plane ticket, fly you back to wherever, no harm, no foul. Anything after that, there's going to be consequences. They need to be permanent. The other thing that we ought to start doing right off the bat is eliminating all benefits that are paid to illegal aliens. They should only be available to U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents under certain circumstances. Even then, I'd like to see that severely restricted. And then also start going after employers. Make E-Verify mandatory. If you're hiring illegal aliens, you're going to be fined initially and then imprisoned after that, unless they used, forged documents or some other way where they bypass the normal means and you didn't know. You're going to pay the price. Guys, unfortunately, we are out of time for the day. But I want to again thank you for staying with us. Please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people to news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. Stay tuned here on Patriot TV for Hannah Faulkner. She's coming up next. Thanks again, and we'll be back again tomorrow with even more.